Hey guys, welcome to Coaching with Chris. I'm pretty excited today because I get to talk to two of the smartest guys in the VA space. Chris, Nathan, listen, I'm excited to be able to have you. And I screwed up.
How so?
Well, I had this idea that I was going to have this glue-on beard so that when I was on with you guys, right, I would feel like part of the group. Like I would feel fit in and stuff. So I was gonna have this, huge beard and everything. And then I got busy and I'm like, oh, I don't have the beard. So I tried to get Amazon to deliver it to me today and it didn't happen. So I guess I'm gonna go with I had to shave.
I love it.
Had to is probably a bit of an aggressive statement.
It gets pretty fuzzy up here. And then my wife makes comments like, you don't have hair. Like, you're not fooling anyone.
Can you grow a beard, Chris?
I've never tried. I hate No Shave November because a lot of my guys do it. And some of them, they shouldn't even try. Like Rob Barron tried to grow a mustache. And, he shaves it off here in a couple days. But you can still barely see it. It's a month in.
I feel that. I would not. I had this little goatee for the longest time, right? And it wasn't until I really started hanging out with Christopher Griffith a little bit longer. He's like, go for the full beard or give up. Like, and that statement, by the way, I mean, I started growing the goatee when I was 16. I just always had it, like this little, and always. And so when he said like grow the full beard or give up, I went, oh wow, that just struck at my teenage years. Like 20 years of my life, I was just told like jump in or stop. And so I give this all to Christopher. Like I have to trim it down though, because my wife would never allow for that. Oh, he doesn't poke at you. He pushes you and he says, I love you, and shoves you in the pool. And it's like, that's how he tells you he loves you.
Well, today we're going to be talking a lot about vetted VA, but I think first of all, for everybody who doesn't know you guys, how did you guys start in the mortgage business in the first place? Like, give us a little bit of a journey of how you started.
Nate, you want to go first?
Sure. I started in 2000. You again? This one's actually, he's honoring me. He's allowing me to go first. I love Christopher and I will let him talk because honestly, the heart of everything we do at Vetted VA started with him getting angry and making a change. And nice. I'm along with that ride and that partnership. But my lending career started in 2007. I have this amazing ability to choose the worst time ever to jump into something. And I've done it time and time again, but I started because I was a manager at Starbucks and everybody was buying homes in 2006. They could just buy homes. And I was like, I could buy a home. And I did it. And I was like, wow, you can make a lot of money doing this. And my wife and I thought, wouldn't it be awesome if we could have kids and she wouldn't have to work and I could provide for the family. So yeah, my timing was awesome, May of 2007, but it got in my blood and I love it. I started as a broker with a small shop in Salem, Oregon. And didn't know any better, didn't know any different, and I loved it. And so I was in there for about 4 or 5 years with the market. I did make a change out of it, but came back in a training capacity, was called back to build online CE, and did that for a little over 4 years, but that's how I met Christopher.
Sure. Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. How about you, Chris?
So 2012, I was medically retired from the Marine Corps for nothing cool, well in advance of what I wanted to happen. Didn't know what I was going to do. Like most vets getting out of the service, you kind of flounder around for a little bit until you sort it out, even though you have a couple different ideas or plans, I guess, in mind. My mother and my stepfather had a mortgage brokerage that had been around for a long time, and they were in the process of wanting to transition to a full delegated shop, so mini core then full del. I moved to Colorado with my family. We lived out just south of Denver there, a little town. Lived out there, started as his loan officer assistant, did that for 6 months. He was about ready to fire me. I was about ready to quit, so we decided I'd become a loan officer, which worked out really well. Got into brokering at that point, originated, built a business up from really the core training strategy. I didn't know any better, right? So I started calling agents like crazy. Sitting down with them and then following up with them, and very quickly built a decent portfolio. We transitioned to mini core about 1.5 years in, full del about 3 years in. And then it just kind of got to the point to where I didn't, at that point in my career, with the way that I wanted to represent each consumer, I didn't feel full Dell was the best route for me to go. So transitioned out of my family's company and started my own mortgage brokerage.
Oh, cool story. So then, Nathan, you kind of led into it, but someone got pissed off. Someone had a movement, a start, and you're like, hey, look, listen, I want to do something about it. Like, walk me through that little journey and how we get to Vetted VA.
Well, I will say, before you go, Christopher, let me just put my prerequisite, what I like to say. I did not serve. So everything about Vetted VA, like in our partnership, I'm the civilian. I did the college thing. My father is a Vietnam veteran and really kind of leaned on me to go to college and not do the service. My grandfather's World War II, and that was just a push. So my heart is big. My service is desiring to serve those that did sign the contract and did fight for our country. But I'm really clear on that because I don't ever want to be considered a poser, if you will. So I'll lead that over to Christopher at this point.
Well, hold on one sec, Chris. I got to tell you, I relate to you. I never served. My dad did in Vietnam. I always had lots of questions because my dad was shot 5 times and crawled back. Was the only one to live.
Wow.
We had 2 rules in the house. We didn't watch war movies, and we never talked about snakes. And I always saw this big hole in his leg. And my mom would say, we don't talk about it. I go, but how did it happen? And when my dad passed away, I got his Army outfit and all of his Bronze Star and Purple Heart and all this stuff. And so to this day, I cherish that, but I can't relate to it. And so it's why veterans are so important to me, is because of my father. And yet he left this earth with tons of questions as a young boy that wanted to know about his time in serving. So Chris, thank you for serving, and I can't wait to hear your story of how you got mad and was going to make a change.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you asking. There are a few people that have been around the community for a long time, and so they were there at the beginning of it, which they're basically meaning getting caught up in the wake of turbulence. I'd been online, I think it was 2017 or so, the market where we were at in Denver kind of started to dry up a little bit. Agents weren't doing as much business. I never thought the process for a consumer was congruent, going to an agent and then immediately getting bumped over to a loan officer. So I thought I would do what a lot of vets did and spend a bunch of time in Facebook groups. Only what I was going to do there was answer questions, make sure people knew how to accomplish some of the goals that they had, overcome some of the obstacles that they were facing, and had someone kind of by their side to walk them through it without it being predicated on transactional relationship in any way, shape, or form, right? It was just I could help, so I did help kind of a thing. And what I found out was the majority of professionals out there used any questions that came up or any desire to talk about the housing market as a leadoff kind of a point, like a trigger lead, to start prompting them to do business with them, even before they offered any help or support or answered a very direct question that led off with. And so that began to irk me a little bit. And then very quickly after that, we got into what would later be described as loan churning and then cash out churning. And I would say I got pissed off. I was upset because here are all these people that had fulfilled an obligation of service, a contractual agreement, right? And had great questions, and they were just being used. They were just being treated as pieces of meat. And, they've already been that route. Like, come on, these guys guys and gals deserve a little bit of a break. And so I started, listen, when you put any Marine watching this, maybe the Army too, but any Marine watching this will understand, when you ambush a Marine, they've got one move, and that's it. And that's turn in, fire, and start moving at you. That's exactly what I did. I got fed up with the bad actors in the industry, so I started to confront them anywhere and everywhere I found them, online, in physical, places. Went to the VA Lenders Conference and kind of put a company. I'm not going to name names on this thing because I'm trying to,
Are you trying to be politically correct?
I'm trying to grow, Chris. Everyone should grow. Well, and I'll tell you why here in a second. But Name names, called people out, and I just went to war with them. I was fed up and I was mad. I was emotionally angry at all of the people that I saw that were claiming to be these great people or these huge supporters of vets, and all they were about were themselves. And I just got fed up with it. So unfortunately, what I learned is in that process, a lot of the people that I was wanting to reach and a lot of the hearts and minds I was wanting to speak to, the way that I was conducting myself turned a lot of them off, which I understand. You know, it's hard to follow somebody on a rampage and you wonder what their driver is behind that rampage and how far they're going to take it. So I had to learn a little bit and grow a little bit in the way that I addressed a lot of the problems that were occurring. And I did. And well, one morning I woke up, was having just like it usually started on Facebook, in some random group, and some guy who I knew pretty well popped off some stuff and I think made the skin in the game comment or some nonsense like that. And I just got mad. And I went on Facebook Live and I told everybody, you know, look, here's all of this bad stuff that's happening in the industry. Share this, get the word out. If you're a vet, don't settle for this type of behavior. And video went pretty far and wide. I hammered on a few people in it as well. And woke up the next morning realizing, like, man, if I don't do something about this, I'm just another guy complaining. And look, Marines like to gripe, and don't get me wrong, but I don't like to complain or gripe and not follow it up with anything. So set out to create a Facebook group simply in the beginning that would be different, that veterans could recognize as a place to ask any and all questions that they have, good questions, bad questions, dumb questions, fraud questions. It didn't matter. We wouldn't belittle them. We wouldn't treat them as if they were just worth a transaction to us and that was it. We would teach them. We would educate them and help them understand how to overcome the obstacles where they were facing to, you know, obtain one of the biggest values that they were going to be able to achieve post service. So we created a Facebook group. We seeded it with a bunch of people. I'd been in groups arguing with anybody and everybody for a couple of years at that point. So I'd garnered a lot of trust and confidence from many of my peers, the veterans that were in the community, consumers, right? Not professionals at this point. Invited them all to the group. And very quickly, the group started taking off. And it got to the point to where alone I couldn't hold it, couldn't maintain it, couldn't deliver on the thing that I wanted for them. So we had to come up with a new strategy to bring a bunch of people together, independent people that would all unite under a banner and do things a specific way.
Yeah. And that's Vetted VA.
That's
Vetted VA. Yeah. A lot more after the fact to get there, but.
Yeah. But like Vetted VA, it's more than a Facebook group.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we are. Go ahead, sir.
Well, I mean, I think there's people that are going to listen to this like, what? Now, what's Vetted VA? And if you had to say what 3 things that Vetted VA do for the consumer and for the mortgage professional, what would you say those are?
Yeah, great question. I would say more than anything, we are a training and accountability organization. We train and hold professionals accountable. And then the consumers that come to us, we train, educate, and hold their goals accountable to how things work, right? We help them to achieve the thing that they're pursuing, regardless of whether they're a consumer looking to understand the thing so that they can use it, or a professional looking to learn a thing so that they can help more consumers.
Right. So let's go on the professional side first. And I think it's important because probably more professionals are probably in the mortgage industry are probably going to listen to this. But then I think it's important that the consumer, because maybe a consumer would listen, but go to the professional side. So you said one thing, accountability. How do you guys view accountability in the Vetted VA space of working with originators across the country?
Well, there's a few different ways. It starts with education, people training, right? The military understands training probably better than any other organization I've ever seen or been a part of. You've heard the saying, what is it? Amateurs practice till they get it right. Professionals practice till they can't get it wrong. Military members follow that. You practice every type of iteration of whatever mission or goal that you have in front of you until you can't get it wrong. When we have training operations with other nations, we stack the deck against us because we learn more in our losses than we do in winning things that we ought to win, right? Mm-hmm. And so it starts at training. You have to put yourself in a training environment and understand that you should be training daily until you can't get it wrong. because it's that important of a goal. So with professionals, we do the same exact thing. We put them into a scenario where they're training and forced to train harder than they ever have been in mortgage, period. Right. End of story. There's not another training protocol that I'm aware of in the entire nation, VA or otherwise, that's as challenging as what we have. And we create it that way. We've created it that way very specifically because you learn more in failure than you do in winning, right? So we create opportunities for professionals to fail consistently so that they might learn and grow from their mistakes and understand what they need to get better at.
So if I'm an originator and I'm like dabbled my toe in the VA business, I've done a lot of conventional loans, maybe I've done some even FHA, but I want to get better. I want to get better at VA loans. You are the source to go to for that training, for that accountability, to be able to place yourself in the market. But you're also going to help me be able to learn and to understand how to market myself, or are you just going to learn and teach me how to understand veteran loans and all of the rules?
So there's a couple of key components there, right? So it was early 2020, Christopher and I were looking at this group and thinking, how do we actually train this? And coming from a little bit of a training background, I went, well, most training and courses are built on the philosophy or the theory that the teacher, the trainer, actually carries into the topic. But how do you get away from that? Because philosophy and training really come from experience. Right. And the 3 E's of VA are education, experience, and exposure. So if we're going to educate you, we got to go to the handbook, right? That the 26-7 is the core of all truth for the VA lending. Now, the lenders like yourself, you will have overlays, but overlays are not the fact. They are the opportunity with which we're doing this loan with that particular lender. And so we have to go back and boil it down. And we started not with creating a lot of coursework, but with a test that was meant to break off every professional that looked at it and cause failure. Failure, which causes them to then stand back up and say, okay, what did I just learn from that? Let's go again, right? Just what Christopher was talking about. We train until we can't get it wrong. And so that test really encapsulated about 400 test questions written from the handbook, broken into 6 test takes, where they literally had to pass it at 90% or better. And if they didn't, it was right back at it. Open book test too. There's nothing to memorize. Here's a question. Go find the answer. Here's a question.
But I heard a rumor.
Go find the answer. What was that?
I heard a rumor. I heard that your test is by far, even though it's open book, is the hardest.
Yeah, I'd like somebody to chime in that's watching this and just confirm that, but it is. We've heard that over and over again that this is.
I love it.
Causes most people to pull their hair out and look more like Vincent than Griffith.
Oh, here we go, bald guy jokes again. So I got to go through this module. There's training that happens. Then I got to take this test, open book, right? And then I'm able to go to the next section, or?
Yeah, so we migrate people's education in a couple different ways. In the Marine Corps, you use the phrase crawl, walk, run, right? How you're taught things, so it gets you up to speed. We start in theory. Everything works in theory to some degree, right? But once you get to reality, things are quite different. So we walk them through the theory-based modules that we have. We send them through the handbook test because at the end of the day, the only weapon that a professional has to serve consumers are the source guidelines, right? And those exist in a few places. You have the handbook, you have the selling guide, you have circulars, and you have a couple manuals, right? So we put them into a challenging environment in the source guidelines to make them spend time there, to make them learn to manipulate it, get muscle memory, get rid of any anxiety that they have about going to the source each and every time that they run into something that they're uncertain about, right? And this basic movement, this function that they're learning through that process of failure is to get comfortable with the handbook, get comfortable with the sources. And this is incredibly important. After we've migrated them through the theory-based protocol trainings that we have, they come into what we have as a private Facebook group. We're just shy of 80,000 total consumers in this Facebook group. And in this group, we have them moderate. They answer questions. They reply back to comments. They help ask additional follow-up questions so that the consumer may expose some other things that they're not aware of peripheral to the main topic that they're learning about. This experiential type, exposure type of training allows them to get into an immersive environment where they're going to run into scenarios they might not see in 10 years of originating, right? Yep. We expose them to moderating, and they moderate in squads, and they all we have 8 squads. They shift days of the week every day. but they're required on their squad day to participate in active moderation, and we track their engagements to ensure that they're doing so. And this is a really unique and incredibly important part of our training because it allows them to get comfortable. You're like, earlier you said, hey, so you teach them how to speak to, how to market to, or approach, and what voice to use with veterans. Yeah, we do, because we integrate them into a community where they're required to learn the different acronyms, where they hear the conversation about the difficulties surrounding PCS, where they see husbands or wives trying to buy a home with their family while they're deployed with their family back at home, and how all of that works. So we're exposing them and getting them experience around real life scenarios that are going on where they're charged with helping the veteran overcome those obstacles, even if they're not the ones financially benefiting from it.
I get the name now. Like, you vet all of these mortgage professionals before you let them into your private group, of which then provides them opportunities and leads. Did I got this right?
Kind of. So vetted, the term vetted, a lot of people use it. My background in the Marine Corps was counterintel, human intel. Human intelligence is the only form of intelligence out of like 10 to 12 different styles of ints in the military that consistently answers the why for a commander. When buying a home, the why is incredibly important to the consumer. You can tell them a lot of things, but if they don't understand why this or that, or they can't or they can, right? They can inform a reasonable decision for themselves. And so we want to empower consumers to be able to choose for themselves, right? Vetted is a past tense word in most people's understanding, but for us, it's not. It's a continual test of veracity to ensure that each and every step there is accountability behind action, right? And so in the human intelligence community, vetting is a really important thing, because you have to make sure the source of the information is accurate, the information's accurate. You have to take emotion and all of those other pieces out of it that don't factor into the equation, and just have a fact-based explanation of things. So they moderate in our Facebook group, right? There's no ability for them to solicit. There's no, hey, I've been a professional for X, or hey, I'm over here in X, or we don't even handle questions that say, hey, I'm looking for a loan officer in Michigan. Who can help me? We don't even post those kind of comments up, because we don't want to massage any motive or any thought that a consumer might have watching that we're there to garner business from them.
Right.
We created a map on our website, and the map's original point and purpose was so that when the veterans ran into questions that were too personal, that didn't need to be shared on Facebook, or they had to have documents looked at that didn't need to be sent over Messenger or in a picture, that they could reach out to the individuals closest to them and ask a specific question in a protected and secure environment. So the map was originally constructed for that reason. That said, the trust and rapport that we build with the military community is such that more often than not, they're going to the map to locate professionals near them for professional services. But it's a byproduct. Yeah, we don't care if we create leads for anyone. They're not leads.
No, because
they're real humans with problems. Correct.
Yep.
Yeah, I get that.
And vetted being the past tense, where yesterday I vetted you, today I'm vetting you, and tomorrow I will vet you. And so that is the consistent and regular process of affirming. And where Christopher is going then, once their service standards are in play, we ask for reporting. So we check out everybody who's in our group, a monthly report system, where we then verify, backstop, and compare that they are serving to the best of their ability, making sure they have reports too, to understand where they sit in the field of service, lending, and our real estate and realtors that are a part of this. They're getting reports too, understanding that, hey, the people they're working with, how they're being served, is that to the very best that they can be served? What questions should they ask? How should they be addressing that? Should they be sharpening their pencil in their pricing? How do they actually impact time, distance, and direction the veteran or the active duty service member that they're serving with this VA home loan in their particular geographical MSA?
Yeah. How do I get involved? How does someone listening to this say, okay, I want to get involved?
I would, before I'm going to hand it to Christopher, I'd say this, that Vetted VA has, we started around, that group started in 2019. The testing, the vetting really kind of took a high impact in 2020. And we've been honing our skills since then. And I would say we are not tied to any particular group or association out there. We are here to build, to help, to support anybody who has a desire, a heart, and a mind to get better, to understand that you are never an expert. An expert is one that says, I still have more to learn. I still have farther to go. And so that's why we're here. We are here to train and support and engage. with the rank structure and everything we do there. And so my biggest call would be for anybody watching, listening to this live or following up. You're going to see comments on here probably from people that are part of VETA currently as active duty service members or active duty professionals with us. And then there's the reservist, and I'll let Christopher kind of walk that through. But I would say that some of the part with what we do is for any professional with a willing heart and mind who wants to get better, regardless of their role.
Yeah.
So how do you get involved with what we're doing? There's a couple different ways you can start the process, Chris. You can reach out to us directly on Facebook, our cell phone numbers. All of our contact information's on our website, vetaba.com. But after you reach out, there's really one of two routes that you can take. The first route is the reservist modules that we have, which take you through.
Whoops, we lost him. Nathan, can you pick up where he was going?
Yeah. So the reservist modules, what we did is we broke all our training down into, Christopher's coming back, but we broke our training down into a couple points. The reservist module really is set up to be all the training components we've built. It's about 20 plus hours. It'll take you through. I had to know nothing about the VA loan to, wow, you're going deep dive into some things, especially around appraisals, ROVs, and Tidewater. It goes into underwriting structures and manual underwrites and how to apply the handbook to that, plus some Ginnie Mae Chapter 24 reselling tests, and even the VA underwriting test, which is a very unique component in the book we found on there. So the reservist training we've built is really for anybody who wants to serve, but I don't want to go into the whole active service thing that VETA's put up on the map and all that. I just want some training. That is what reservist is for. Now, if you want to get into it and really engage with the education, experience, and exposure, the education piece, you go through the same module of training, but then you also have to finish those tests. The reservists don't do the tests. There's no reason to try to drive through that. The testing mechanism is built for the active duty. And so when you go active with us, that is you dive into it, then you get through the testing. We have a rank structure. When you've gone through the testing and the training modules, you're put into a squad. Those squads have service. There's 8 squads. So once every 8 days, you are in that group, you're moderating, you're engaging, and you're building relationship and serving, and then follow through with that. So we lay this all out. And I think somebody mentioned on the page here in the chat below, there's a professional page, which I'll go ahead and link in that chat too, if you're interested. We kind of lay all this out there for you.
Yeah, please do.
And I'll say this too, Windsor you've built up a great reputation for serving and for supporting and trying to embrace the veterans process through this. Like some states, they allow you to waive escrows early on for 100% disability. You guys adapted that really early in the game, even before it became what it is now and more people knew about it. And so if anybody's even interested in the reservist training, we want to offer a discount. We'll put a link on here, and just use the code Windsor, and it'll get you $100 off our standard reservist training. But I appreciate you and appreciate the time and the opportunity to spread this message. Christopher, you back on?
Yeah, I had a phone call come in, so apologies. I guess it booted me for a half second. But great explanation, Nate. You really nailed it down there.
Thanks.
I would say for anyone listening to this, you need to have a proper expectation. I think expectation setting is incredibly important in our industry. And so I want to set that expectation for you right now. If you join our organization, expect the hardest training that you've done since you've been in the housing industry. Expect failure. Expect that you will grow. Expect in 12 months of training with us that you're going to be better than probably 95% of those in housing that work with VA loans. We don't care if you're a veteran. We don't care if your dad served, if your mom served, what it is. We care about your heart. We want to find the people that are willing to put themselves through the work that it takes to truly become technically and tactically proficient at what they do, because not many people do. A lot of people like to say that they do, or they take these little courses that give them some sort of logo or insignia up to put in their signature line. But with us, we're going to force you to train and fail until you become much better than you are today.
I got a question. What's next for you guys? You're doing such an amazing job. You've built this amazing
It's a great question.
piece. What's next?
So 2024, our biggest agenda for 2024, we spent this amount of time building up our training protocols, building up our people that are a part of and have gone through certain rank iterations, because we have different rank progressions. Some of them you have to be in for a couple years before you can reach them. But we've also built courseware that we label COTP, or our Community Outreach Training Programs, right? And so we built courseware for our professionals once they go through our certification process, because they have to, right? We have to see how they teach and measure all of those things, right? But they can access these courses. It comes with a course. It comes with a facilitator guide where we give them handouts, things that they need to put in some of the hands that are going to be people sitting in these classes. But our big agenda for 2024 is to now put our body of trained professionals to work out physically or digitally teaching in their local markets, so that we can begin to ensure that those people that really don't know what they're talking about in the industry aren't the loudest, aren't the ones that are most prevalent, aren't the ones being heard and learned from. We need veterans and we need professionals that know the truth behind VA lending. So that's going to be our biggest agenda for 2024, is beginning to teach in larger communities out there, physically or digitally, to ensure that people have access to the information.
I'm just like saying this, but I'm sure it's true. I'd like to hear you guys say. I mean, I feel like your voice in the VA space, and even in the movements of what's happening in mortgage in Washington, D.C., I'm assuming your voice is starting to become bigger and bigger and bigger into that VA space. Would you say that's true?
I think so. Part of the problem with how I came on scene, one thing that we learned this year at the VA Lenders Conference is not even the VA has a training program that they love to teach the people that work at their regional loan centers, right? And so we had a rough conversation with them about what that could potentially look like, or would they ever outsource training to another organization to put something together, or if they have something put together. We showed them what we have. They admitted that it was better than anything they had. But part of the roadblocks that we still run into today are some of the things that I said in the beginning, and my posture in coming onto the scene. I really look like somebody who was after tearing things down and bashing things up a little bit more than I did as someone who wanted to fix and repair and rehabilitate an industry that had gone sideways for years to that point. So I think that there is plenty of opportunity for us to continue on a macro level to influence some of the dialogue and things that are occurring. At the VA Lender Conference, I knew that VA loan churning was a thing, but I didn't have anything to validate it. I didn't have data to point at to say, look, here's what I'm talking about. That's why we created the VTB process, where we consume all of this data internally and compare it against HMDA. It's why we look at consumer financial data. It's why we look at default data. We look at census data. Like, we have custom dashboards that help us to view this information so that we can identify some of the problems before they're at scale, and hopefully better inform even organizations like the VA themselves, so that more timely decision making can be had. So it's our hope to continue to grow and scale and influence things in a larger capacity. It's our desire to be capable to do that in an incredibly unique way. We worked very hard to this point to get into a position where someone like you, Chris, might say something like that. Not again because that was the goal, but that was the hope, right? That was the hope that we had, that we would begin to proliferate, because the reality is we have an entire industry of professionals, and the majority of them need to be retrained or trained for the first time. Many of them never had training on it.
And I will follow up and just say that the voice that VetaVA is earning in the marketplace is not the voice of Christopher and Nathan. We are helping to drive some things forward. But honestly, I want to replace in fact, there's some people that are commenting on this live, like Ryland Maddox, Jerry Holland, Sam Royer, Andy Trino. These are individuals that have, and Kira Maddox, I saw a comment there with Ryland. Like, these are people that have engaged with us that are there working, they're leading, they're actually leading in the VetaVA community as well, with squads and structure. They are calling their peers to be better. And these are peers that don't work for the same companies. These are peers that work all over the nation. VetaVA is about calling others to be better, just to move forward, to utilize that voice, that knowledge, that education to help every veteran and active duty service member and family member who has earned the VA home loan benefit to have the best options and just have the resources at hand, so the veterans and VA eligible homeowners can choose and have the knowledge to make the best choice for their family and their future. These professionals are the ones that can get on here and speak even more eloquently than Christopher and myself. We just want to help give them a better stage with all the information, so that when they get a chance to stand in front of whomever it will be in the future, They have the knowledge and experience and the backing of a community that is with them lockstep.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm sitting here thinking, what a cool company you guys have started, and look who's all involved, just like all the many names that you just mentioned. I know probably Sam the best out of those, but what a legacy you're going to leave down the road. What better originators are you going to make? I think, back in the old days, you're like, I remember when I first started, they're like, all right, Chris, here's the deal. We're going to learn this product first, then we're going to go to this product, then we're going to go to that product. By the time you get to VA, you're like, yeah, I got it. What? You can loan up to 100%? Yeah. What's the difference between regular and a disability veteran? Oh, yeah. Let's go. I'm VA trained, and it's so much more than that, so much overlays. And, as a lender, we have frustrations too, because it is an unfair playing field on a Ginny ticket. And servicing Ginny loans and overcoming delinquency, and us having to support delinquency, because the difference between conventional and a Ginny is that we pay the offset in delinquency and then wait to recollect. Yes, down the road, you could get recaptured back through foreclosure, et cetera, but you have to offset that cash flow. And I think one of the questions was helping on departing residents. And the reason why overlays don't get handled so quickly on a Ginny ticket is that we have to evaluate risk, because risk is cash flow. And you're like, well, that can't be that much. You're like, oh, let me tell you some of the checks that you get to write every month to offset delinquency. And, I feel like the VA loan is one of the best loans out there. Dang sure. I'm sure you're doing tons of training, and I don't want to skip this section, because I think one of the greatest jumbos out there is the VA jumbo. And I think a lot of lenders forget to ask the question, are you a veteran? When starting that conversation of it. I don't know if they judge. I don't know what happens, but how could you have missed that question? And I'm sure I'm scared to even ask Chris, because I don't know if he's going to go on tiring or whatever. But you guys, don't you feel like more training even into that jumbo VA space is missed by tons and tons of originators across the country?
1,000%, it absolutely is. And the irony of it all is how much different is a VA jumbo loan from an underwriting standpoint than a regular VA loan?
It's not.
It's
the
not.
Same rules.
It's not. It's the same exact loan. That's what's so frustrating about this. So the problem starts from a couple different areas. In other lending loan types, it is different. It's a completely different process. You have different guidelines, different buyers, all of these different things. With VA, it's not. It's the same exact thing. So you have professionals, loan officers that don't really know, and so they share bad information, or they assume something can't be done instead of looking it up or asking around, right, calling the RLCs. And then you have real estate agents that just don't know. Don't take this personal if you're a listing agent out there, but listing agents, y'all are one of the biggest reasons veterans don't use their VA entitlement, because of a past experience you had, or because of a past lender that you worked with that had massive overlays. Like the last time I went and looked at buying a house, and I told them it was a $1.5 million house. I told them I was going to be writing a VA offer if I wrote an offer. And the agent was like, well, sorry, we can't show you the house if you're going to be using a VA loan. I'm like, ma'am, I know you don't know this, and I know you don't know who I am, but let's revisit that statement a second, because if you leave it there, a lot of people are going to know who you are. Turns out she was an Air Force veteran. Just didn't know. Yeah, she was an Air Force veteran herself, just didn't know, had no clue about the capability behind a VA loan, why I wouldn't want to put money down, like all of these different things. So I've educated her.
Are you guys doing anything to, I don't mean this like that. Let me rephrase that. Are we working on trying to educate the real estate community or the realtors out there of the value of VA approval letter?
Yes. So the COTPs, the community outreach training programs, we're working on getting those certified for continuing education for real estate agents. That way the loan officers or other real estate agents in our community can go out and teach those classes and help inform them. We encourage all our members to go to their boards that are in their local areas, to visit their VSOs that are in their local areas, to give the handouts that we've created. We have an 18-page home buyer guide, Nathan, that goes into really more training than most of the professionals have had, and it was intended to put in the consumer's hand. So we're doing everything that we can to overcome these problems. Part of the thing is we need a bigger army and we need more ears to pay attention to it.
Yeah. I'm proud of you. You didn't freak out when the agent said that to you.
Did
you G-rate that statement?
Oh yeah, I G-rate everything these days just because I'm already kind of a high tempo guy with a lot of inflection in my voice, and so if I don't, and that's the other rule. Vetted VA is a non-cussing community. Veterans can't cuss, professionals can't cuss. We have the biggest G-rated community of veterans on Facebook, and the reason why is how you say something will impact whether or not a person even opens their ears to hear you. Right. And so even with that lady, as tactfully as I could, even though she could sense some frustration with me, I absolutely kept it professional because it doesn't have to emotionally harm me for when I encounter ignorance. And we shouldn't encounter ignorance in an angry capacity. If you do, you probably aren't the best suited to try to educate them in the first place. And so if you go there, you lose your footing on the primary mission that you have. And so we don't.
Yeah, I love this. Listen, I got something to say. If you don't get involved in Vetted VA, you're missing out. If you're a rookie, you need to get involved. If you're a veteran, a veteran mortgage originator, you need to get involved. Like, it doesn't matter how long you've been doing this business or you've just got in. Vetted VA, I feel like the amount of training that you can help an originator to bring back out to retrain the realtors. By the way, training a realtor, giving the tips is the most attractive thing that you could ever do. There needs to be more of it. We need to be able to educate when they get a VA approval letter, the power of that, and to being understanding even the philosophy of looking at DTI and VA versus all the other loans is at a whole nother level, and it's understanding cash flow. And I wish more originators would actually understand a cash flow perspective versus just throwing this number out. A DTI at 45 making $2,000, a DTI at 45 making $20,000 is a totally different budget.
I think honestly what you're getting at, Chris, residual income is one of the reasons why VA foreclosures are some of the lowest of all loan types out there, if not the lowest of all loan types out there, because they have a different way of approaching ability to repay. They look at residual income, right? They look at cash flow, as you're mentioning right now.
Yeah, they do. I'm excited to partner with you guys more. I'm excited for your hearts. You guys have just grown and done amazing things for all of us originators. So I just want to say thank you.
Thanks for allowing us to be on here. And thanks for seeing us and being a great supporter of the veterans, the VA lending you guys do, and being transparent when things are not easy, right? Like departing residents, it's all about transparency. Once we understand why, it's really easy to walk through that together and really kind of navigate the terrain.
No, and I appreciated the conversations around the Jenny ticket, and that's one that a lot of originators don't understand and get into, understanding why certain lenders have certain things and others don't, and why even some lenders don't have it and then do have it and then don't have it again, because we understand that y'all have to manage risk, and we think that that's an incredibly important thing to have diverse lending environment where everyone gets to manage their risk appropriately for the time that they're in and make the best decisions they can. But we appreciate you having us on your platform, giving us a microphone to visit a little bit into, and any support, any desire that you have to work together, we'll certainly show up and put in the time with you.
Yeah, thank you, Fries, for the discount. Make sure you guys check that out in the chat. I've seen it a couple times. Get involved, get educated, and get accountability. We'll see you guys later.